Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the comprehensive yet informal study of Wittgenstein's philosophical investigations. Matt and Kirk here again. Last time we were here doing the preface. Um, yeah, where Wittgenstein was talking about this kind of being an album as opposed to a unified book, a unified like system as well. It seems, and more so just like sort of something to give us an idea of a landscape. I didn't really elaborate on that too much, but it's he gave us various topics about language, foundations of mathematics or meaning, I guess, instead of language per se, consciousness. So that's yeah, it's sort of landscape about that, and there seemed to be some sort of necessity to this being not a unified book. Um, so yeah, it's sort of interesting, and I wonder if we'll get more as to why that is. Maybe inconsistency of language or something. I don't know, incompleteness of language. I'm newer to Wittgenstein. I was into him a few years ago, like casually. Read a little bit of the first work, the Tractatus, but the investigations is the more mature work, and he talked about that in the preface as well, and building on it and improving it when he can, and just trying to give people material for thinking. And an idea of this landscape. So we'll see if what gets painted as we jump into the first investigation. Kirk's here with me. Kirk, do you have any preliminary remarks for this?
No,
Cool. Okay. So we have here an Augustine. Oh my God, Augustine. Augustine quote from the Confessions. It's in Latin. I'm not going to read that. I think the translation is right down here. So yeah, I think we'll start down here. Kirk, do you want to read, or should I read?
you can read.
All right. When grown-ups named some object and at the same time turned towards it, I perceived this, and I grasped that the thing was signified by the sound they uttered, since they meant to point it out, with the emphasis on the it, the object. Um, I think it's the object. Yeah. This, however, I gathered from their gestures, the natural language of all peoples, the language that, by means of facial expression and the play of eyes, of the movements of the limbs and the tone of voice, indicates the affections of the soul when it desires or clings to, or rejects or recoils from something. In this way, little by little, I learned to understand what things the words, which I heard uttered in their respective places in various sentences, signified. And once I got my tongue around these signs, I used them to express my wishes. So, yeah, this is very interesting as someone who's interested, in Freud, Lacan, psychoanalysis, even, like Zizek and its connections to German idealism that he and others, scholars like him make. Yeah, so coming from that into this is very interesting. We get lots of talk about. I mean, this is sort of the foundation, right? At least of the Freudian, Lacanian perspective, at least clinically, it seems. I mean, I'm not a clinical psychoanalyst or anything, but when I hear clinicians speak, and when I read what they say about like the beginnings or foundations of psychoanalysis, a lot of it has to do with these ideas about language being a way to express desires about objects. Um, and there's a weird paradox, right? Because there's the language is never the object, nor is the image the object, right? So it always sort of comes up short, um, it's a signifier, right? It's not an actual, right? The big Lacan, right? The signifier. This I think does a great job of showing why a signifier is so big, and not only does it come up short of the object, it indicates desire, right? And like it says here, the play of the eyes, the movements of the limbs, the tone of the voice indicates the affections of the soul when it desires or clings to, rejects or recoils from something. So the signifier and language, there's a real overlap between all the objects and our desires and our reactions to the object, um, all encapsulated in language, and I don't think this goes into it. But obviously, then there's the claim that language actually ends up uh, uh, sort of determining a lot of things, right? And that's when it gets to the other, right? Because we learn to value almost the language as its own source of authority and things. And this doesn't really get into that, so I think I'll leave that there. But yeah, we this is really interesting for those reasons that I just said. You have any thoughts about this initial thing? This is from Augustine, Kirk.
Um, I don't know how directly relevant it is, but I was gonna bring up that since we're conceptually like talking about this notion of a signifier, I know structural linguists like Ferdinand de Saussure and others also talk about how basically language is like significant for cognition, but I don't know specifically how their structuralist methodology relates to um, this quote.
Um. Okay. What did you say that Saussure says about language for cognition?
Well, to my understanding, the source is that basically, like I haven't read his works, but I heard that basically he believed that it's significant for cognition because it basically a signifier signifies what it is and what an object is not at the same time. If my memory serves me correctly, he said that it's not like, to use an analogy, it's not just that the word apple signifies an apple; it also signifies a not banana and a not
Oh yeah.
car, not elephant. So basically, to my son, he also said that like signification also signifies what is not as much as it signifies what is, if my memory serves me correctly. But I haven't read him. This is just from like anecdotes I've heard in lectures.
Yeah, I think that could relate here uh, because the signifier not only indicates the object, it indicates desire and clinging and rejection and recoiling. It does all that too. So yeah, that's cool. um, Anything else, or should we march forward?
That's about it.
Cool. Okay. All right. So that was all. That was all Augustine. Now we're gonna get into Wittgenstein himself. Okay. Let's see what. Let's see. Do you want to read Kirk, or should I keep going?
You can keep going.
All right. So Wittgenstein speaking now, so to speak. These words, it seems to me, give us a particular picture of the essence of human language. It is this: the words in language name objects. Sentences are combinations of such names. In this picture of language, we find the roots of the following idea. Every word has a meaning. This meaning is correlated with the word. It is the object for which the word stands. So, yep, this is just the basic correlation theory. Um, Not of truth. He's not making a truth claim here, but it's a correlationist theory of language, I guess you could say. I don't know if that's a term linguists or philosophers use, but I'm not. Just like I'm newer to Wittgenstein, I'm newer to philosophy of language. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this. But this seems to me, correlated. This is, you could probably describe this as a correlationist.
Well, I thought there was a term for that, but I thought it was correspondence. I mean, correlation
Oh,
correspondence.
correspondence. You're right. You're right. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. So yeah, this is like a correspondence theory of language, at least at the beginning. So I don't know if this is going to get developed. Probably will, but we'll see. Um, did you have anything else, Kirk, or no?
No.
Okay. Moving on. Augustine does not mention any difference between kinds of word. Someone who describes the learning of language in this way is, I believe, thinking primarily of nouns like table, chair, bread, and of people's names, and only secondarily of the names of certain actions and properties, and of the remaining kinds of word as something that will take care of itself. Um, I don't know if he does that. I think in the quote he actually talked about uh, he actually talked about verbs, actions and properties. Yeah, he described desire and cling and reject and recoil. Uh, I mean, that's how Augustine said he learned what things signified. But I don't think you need to see someone's like face to know what chair, table, bread. I think Augustine does go deeper for that reason than Wittgenstein's saying here. So I'm a little skeptical of this claim here, but let's yeah, I don't know. Let's let's just keep going, I guess. Now think of the following use of language. I spend or no, I spend I send someone shopping. I give him a slip of paper marked 5 red apples. He takes the slip to the shopkeeper, who opens the drawer marked apples. Then he looks up the word red in a chart and finds a color sample next to it. Then he says the series of elementary number words. I assume that he knows them by heart up to the word 5, and for each number word he takes an apple of the same color as the sample out of the drawer. It is in this and similar ways that one operates with words. But how does he know where and how he is to look up the word red and what he is to do with the word 5? Well, I assume that he acts as I have described. Explanations come to an end somewhere. But what is the meaning of the word 5? No such thing was in question here, only how the word 5 is used. Yeah, uh, so he gives us a thought experiment next. Um, and he describes the so right, we're given a slip. This is 5 red apples, and then we're given a sort of Wittgenstein gives an accounts for how we do that in a sort of algorithmic way almost, right? We have like it's almost like we have databases in our head, and we look up red, and that has like a color sample next to it, and and then we have he calls series of elementary number words, and then 5, and then it takes an apple of the same color. Uh, but then we run into some problems, right, with this algorithmic perspective, um, because in an algorithm, right, in a computer algorithm, the assumptions are like baked into the code, right? And if you like say, you would have to code in the color sample, and code in like five, or use some sort of like pre-coded algorithm that somebody else made, right? But somehow the computer's got to know how 5 means, what the redness is, what it means, right? And at least in a in a functional sense, right? To because that's what code is, right? It's following instructions to fulfill a function. That's why they're called functions in many coding languages. Um, and that's sort of where Wittgenstein, I think, also ends up, though, which is interesting. Uh, well, I assume that he acts as I have described. Explanations come to an end somewhere. What is the meaning of the word 5? No such thing was in question here, only the word 5 is used. So at least in this thought experiment, uh, explanations have to end somewhere, I guess. But I guess in this situation where if we're just being sent shopping, um, yeah, I guess if we're just being sent shopping for good old Wittgenstein here, we're not really thinking of the meaning of these words. We're only considering how they're used. Now, of course, you could say, yeah, of course, you'd ask these kind of questions, right? How does he know where and how he's to look up the word red and what he's to do with the word 5? You could also ask how did red get there, right? I mean, maybe the Augustine quote serves to provide that explanation, but but then you could still ask, right? Like, how does he know where he's to look up red and what he's to do with the word 5? So that's all quite interesting. But he's making sort of like No, this doesn't actually matter to the shopkeeper, right? It's not in question here. Only how the word five is used. So it's a very utilitarian philosophy of language so far that we're at here. I think.
Would you say, when you say utilitarian, do you mean utilitarian in the philosophical sense or in the colloquial sense?
I think more in the like not in the ethical sense. In the I mean, I guess maybe you could make that jump, but I just mean like in the I guess colloquial sense, but all, in like a literal sense, right? It's a use based uh, theory of language here.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I heard somewhere that Wittgenstein argued that meaning is based on use, but yeah,
I mean, yeah, that's what he's saying right here in the
exactly.
first investigation. Um, yeah. So yeah, that's that. This is right about 16 minutes. Um, do you want to hop into this next one, Kirk, or call it here and then pick up next time?
I think we've gotten through a good bit tonight. I mean, what do you think?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. So we're left here now at the end of this first investigation with this very use based uh, functionalist or use based rather utilitarian theory of language, which is very interesting because I think at least right now I think Wittgenstein's missed the point of uh, Augustine's Augustine's thing here. I think Augustine has a lot to say about like how language is tied in with desire and how like you said, Kirk, Saussure was like it doesn't only indicate an object but also what it more than the object, right? Especially in terms of negation, but also in terms of the this person saying it. Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, a lot
so
to think about, but
Wittgenstein.
that's sort of I guess the tension that I want to end this on. And I don't know if I want to give a Wittgensteinian wisdom of the day because I don't want to encourage this. Or I don't know. I guess Wittgensteinian wisdom of the day. Make sure you know how where you're getting your words from, or at least think about it.
Well, yeah, I
I
guess
think it
like
goes beyond mere use. I think it has a lot to do with what Wittgenstein or not what Augustine's saying here. But yeah, so I'll leave my thoughts there. What'd you say, Kirk?
well, yeah. I was just gonna say that that sounds right. Like it, maybe even if his conclusions are wrong, his methodology is right in the sense that he's trying to think about language, which doesn't always get thought about.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the who you're talking about, I guess. But
Well, but I just mean that like when people speak, they don't usually think, well, like, well, what is the thing we're using to communicate information? Like, I don't think most people are self
yeah,
conscious
that's
of
true.
that.
That's true too. Yeah, I guess he may not necessarily be advocating for it. I guess maybe he's just saying because this is in the context of a shop, someone being sent shopping. So right. So where we're given instructions. So maybe pretty like directly. So maybe it isn't always like this. Maybe he's just making a point about the. Yeah, that's a good point. Um,
Okay.
cool. Yeah, we'll leave that there. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you the next time for investigation number 2. God bless, and we'll see you then. Bye bye.